What if I told you that everything you think you know about aging and living options for seniors is completely wrong? What if the retirement home your family is pushing you toward isn't just limiting your freedom, but actually stealing years from your life? Right now, across the world, there are seniors living in ways that would blow your mind. Traveling the world for less than the cost of a nursing home, building communities that feel more like family than their own children ever did, and discovering parts of themselves they never knew existed. Stay until the end, because what I'm about to share in the final minutes will change how you see your golden years forever. And honestly, it might be the most important thing you hear all year. Hidden truth. Here's what nobody wants to tell you about traditional senior living. It's designed to make money, not to make you happy. The entire industry is built on fear. Fear of being alone, fear of getting sick, fear of being a burden. But what if I told you that some of the happiest, most fulfilled seniors I know are living in ways that most people have never even considered? They're not sitting in sterile facilities, watching the same four walls every day. They're not spending their life savings on care they don't need yet. They're living with intention, with purpose, with joy that radiates from every conversation I have with them. I've spent years researching alternative living situations for seniors, and what I've discovered has completely shifted my understanding of what's possible in our later years. The seniors who are thriving aren't the ones who followed the conventional path. They're the ones who had the courage to choose differently, to live differently, to age differently. And today, I'm going to share 7 options that could transform everything you think you know about growing older. Revolutionary options. Let me start with something that might shock you. There are seniors right now living on cruise ships full-time, and it's costing them less than a retirement home. I'm talking about people who wake up to a new view every few days, who have their meals prepared by professional chefs, who have entertainment, social activities, and medical facilities all within walking distance. The math is incredible. A year-long cruise can cost between $30,000 to $60,000, which is often less than what people pay for assisted living and infinitely more exciting. I met Margaret, a 78-year-old from Ohio, who sold her house and moved onto a cruise ship after her husband passed away. She told me, "I was dying in that house, surrounded by memories and silence. Now I wake up excited every single day. I've made friends from 12 different countries. I've learned to tango, and I've watched more sunrises and sunsets in the past 2 years than I had in the previous 20. Margaret's story isn't unique. There's an entire community of seniors who have discovered that the ocean offers freedom that land never could. But cruising isn't for everyone, and that's where nomadic senior communities come in. Picture this. A group of like-minded seniors traveling together in RVs, staying in different locations for weeks or months at a time, sharing resources, experiences, and genuine friendship. These aren't your typical RV parks filled with isolated individuals. These are intentional communities where people have chosen to live with purpose and connection. Deeper connection. There's something profound that happens when you remove the isolation that traditional senior living often creates. In these nomadic communities, seniors aren't just neighbors, they become chosen family. They cook together, they explore together, they take care of each other in ways that feel natural and loving rather than clinical and cold. The cost of living drops dramatically because resources are shared, but more importantly, the quality of life soars because loneliness becomes virtually impossible. I think about Robert, a 72-year-old former engineer who joined a nomadic community after retiring. He told me, "I thought retirement meant slowing down, maybe playing some golf, watching TV. But this life has given me more adventure than I had in my 40s. Last month we were in the desert looking at stars clearer than I'd ever seen them. This month we're by a lake where I'm learning to kayak. I feel more alive now than I have in decades." The third option that's gaining incredible momentum is something called co-housing communities, designed specifically for seniors. These are neighborhoods where seniors live in their own private homes, but share common spaces, meals, and activities. It's like having the privacy of your own space with the community of a large, loving family. The residents actively participate in decision-making, they share resources, and they create a support system that's both practical and deeply emotional. Transformation journey. What strikes me most about these communities is how they address the real needs of aging, not just medical care but emotional connection, purpose, and growth. In traditional senior living, the focus is on what you can't do anymore. In co-housing, the focus is on what you can still contribute, what you can still learn, what you can still become. Sarah, a 69-year-old artist who moved into a co-housing community, described it like this: "I thought my creative years were behind me, but being around people who see possibility instead of limitation has reignited something in me. I'm painting again, but more than that, I'm teaching workshops for the other residents and even some people from outside the community. I'm not just existing, I'm contributing and growing." The fourth option might surprise you even more: intentional house sharing between seniors and younger people. This isn't just about cutting costs, though that's certainly a benefit. It's about creating intergenerational relationships that enrich both lives. Seniors share their wisdom, experience, and often their beautiful homes that would otherwise feel too big and too quiet. Younger people share their energy, their tech savviness, and their fresh perspectives on life. Profound wisdom. The relationships that form in these intergenerational living situations often become some of the most meaningful connections in both people's lives. The senior gets to mentor and nurture without the pressure of family dynamics. The younger person gets guidance and support without the complications of parent-child relationships. It's pure, chosen connection based on mutual respect and genuine care. I remember talking to Dorothy, an 83-year-old retired teacher who shares her 4-bedroom home with 2 graduate students. She said, "These kids keep me young in ways I never expected. They ask me about history I actually lived through, they include me in their study groups, and they make sure I stay current with technology. But more than that, they remind me that I still have value, that my perspective matters, that my stories are worth telling." The fifth option is something that's becoming increasingly popular: seniors moving to countries where their retirement income stretches further and their quality of life improves dramatically. But I'm not talking about isolated expat communities where Americans just recreate their hometown in a warmer climate. I'm talking about seniors who fully immerse themselves in new cultures, who learn new languages, who discover parts of themselves they never knew existed. Cultural awakening. Countries like Portugal, Mexico, Ecuador, and parts of Eastern Europe offer not just lower costs of living, but rich cultural experiences that can transform how you see yourself and the world. The seniors who thrive in these situations aren't running away from their lives. They're running toward a more authentic version of themselves. They're discovering that age doesn't have to mean limitation, that learning doesn't have to stop, that adventure doesn't have an expiration date. Michael, a 71-year-old who moved to a small town in Portugal, told me, "I thought I knew who I was after 7 decades of life, but learning Portuguese, understanding a different culture, making friends with people who see the world differently, it's like I'm discovering myself all over again. I'm not just older here, I'm wiser, more curious, more alive." The sixth option is something that's particularly powerful for seniors who have always been community-minded: eco-villages and sustainable living communities. These are places where seniors can live in harmony with nature while being part of a community that shares their values about environmental responsibility and simple living. Environmental harmony. These communities often focus on growing their own food, using renewable energy, and creating a lifestyle that's both sustainable and deeply fulfilling. The physical activity involved in gardening, the mental stimulation of learning new skills, and the emotional satisfaction of living according to your values creates a sense of purpose that many seniors find missing in traditional retirement. Elena, a 74-year-old former corporate executive who moved to an eco-village, described her transformation. "I spent 40 years in boardrooms making decisions about profit margins. Now I spend my days growing tomatoes and teaching children about composting. I've never felt more useful, more connected to something meaningful. My hands are dirty, my back sometimes aches, but my heart is fuller than it's ever been." Ultimate freedom. The seventh option might be the most revolutionary of all: creating your own alternative living situation by thinking completely outside the box. This could mean converting a warehouse into a seniors artist commune, buying a small apartment building with friends, and creating your own intentional community, or even something as simple as house swapping with other seniors around the world to experience different places and cultures. The key is realizing that the traditional options, stay in your family home until you can't, then move to a facility, aren't your only choices. You have the power to create a living situation that reflects who you are, what you value, and what you want your later years to look like. Personal revolution. What all of these options share is a fundamental shift in how we think about aging. Instead of seeing it as a decline, these seniors see it as an opportunity. Instead of focusing on what they're losing, they focus on what they're gaining. Freedom from career pressures, freedom from raising children, freedom to finally live according to their own values and desires. But here's what I find most powerful about these alternatives. They require courage. They require you to question everything you've been told about what aging should look like. They require you to believe that you deserve more than just safety and comfort, that you deserve joy and growth and adventure. The seniors who choose these paths aren't just changing their living situations, they're changing their entire relationship with their own lives. They're refusing to accept that their best years are behind them. They're insisting that growth, connection, and purpose don't have expiration dates. Internal transformation. I think about all the seniors I've met who chose these unconventional paths, and there's something in their eyes that I rarely see in traditional senior living facilities. It's a spark, a vitality, a sense of possibility that defies every stereotype about aging. They're not just surviving their golden years, they're thriving in them. This isn't about having endless energy or perfect health. Many of these seniors deal with the same physical challenges that anyone their age faces, but they've found ways to live that honor their whole selves, their need for connection, their desire for growth, their capacity for contribution. They've refused to let their age define their possibilities. Social impact. What's even more powerful is how these choices ripple out to affect everyone around them. Adult children who initially worried about their parents' unconventional choices often find themselves inspired by their parents' courage and vitality. Grandchildren get to see aging as an adventure rather than a decline. Communities benefit from the wisdom and energy of seniors who are engaged and contributing rather than isolated and declining. These seniors are literally changing the narrative about what it means to age. They're proving that the golden years can actually be golden, that retirement can be a beginning rather than an ending, that the freedom that comes with age can be the foundation for the most fulfilling chapter of your life. Breaking barriers. But let's be honest about what holds most people back from considering these options. Fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of what people will think, fear of making a mistake, the comfort of the familiar, even when the familiar is slowly killing your spirit, feels safer than the uncertainty of something new. There's also the pressure from family members who love you but may not understand that safety isn't the only thing that matters. Adult children who want to know exactly where their parents are and what they're doing every day. Grandchildren who expect grandparents to be available for babysitting. Society that tells us that seniors should be grateful for any safe place to live, regardless of whether it feeds their soul. Family dynamics. I've talked to countless seniors who say, "I'd love to try something different, but my kids would never understand." And I get it. Family relationships are complicated, and the last thing you want is to cause worry or conflict. But here's what I've learned from the seniors who have made these bold choices. Often, the initial resistance from family transforms into admiration and even inspiration. When your adult children see you choosing growth over safety, adventure over comfort, they often start questioning their own assumptions about what's possible in their lives. When your grandchildren see you learning new languages, making new friends, exploring new places, they internalize a completely different model of what aging can look like. Economic reality. Let's talk about the financial aspect, because I know that's often the biggest concern. Many of these alternative living options are actually more affordable than traditional senior living, but they require different kinds of financial planning. Instead of saving for a nursing home, you might be saving for travel or for your share of a co-housing community. The key is understanding that the biggest financial risk isn't trying something new. It's spending your life savings on traditional senior care that might not actually make you happy or healthy. Some of the most financially stressed seniors I know are in expensive facilities that drain their resources while providing little joy or fulfillment. Health considerations. I also want to address the health concerns because I know that's often the first objection people raise. What if I get sick? What if I need care? These are legitimate concerns, but they're not insurmountable obstacles. Many of these alternative living situations actually provide better health outcomes because they address the mental and emotional aspects of well-being, not just the physical. The seniors living on cruise ships have access to medical facilities and can disembark at any port if they need specialized care. The nomadic communities often include former healthcare professionals and have established relationships with medical facilities along their routes. Co-housing communities frequently have residents with medical backgrounds and can provide more personalized care than institutional settings. Medical support. More importantly, these living situations often prevent many of the health issues that come from isolation, depression, and lack of purpose. When you're engaged, connected, and excited about life, your overall health often improves dramatically. The stress of traditional senior living, the feeling of being warehoused, the loss of independence, the separation from community, can actually accelerate physical and mental decline. I think about the research that shows how social isolation affects seniors' health, how lack of purpose contributes to cognitive decline, how depression can literally shorten your lifespan. The alternative living options I've described address these root causes of poor health in ways that traditional senior care often doesn't. Spiritual awakening. There's also a spiritual dimension to these choices that I think is often overlooked. Many seniors describe their alternative living experiences as deeply spiritual, not necessarily in a religious sense, but in terms of feeling connected to something larger than themselves. Whether it's the ocean, nature, community, or their own untapped potential, these experiences often provide a sense of meaning and connection that traditional senior living rarely offers. The opportunity to live according to your values, to continue growing and contributing, to be part of something meaningful, these aren't luxuries for seniors, they're necessities for a life well lived. The seniors who thrive in these alternative situations often describe feeling more spiritually fulfilled than they have in decades. Legacy building. I also want to talk about legacy because I think these alternative living choices create a different kind of legacy than traditional approaches to aging. Instead of being remembered as someone who gracefully accepted decline, you become someone who inspired others to think differently about possibility. Instead of teaching your family to prepare for limitations, you teach them to expect growth and adventure at every stage of life. The stories these seniors create become family legends that get passed down through generations. The courage they show in choosing differently becomes a model for their children and grandchildren when they face their own crossroads. The joy they experience in their later years gives everyone around them permission to prioritize happiness over safety, fulfillment over comfort. Community impact. These choices also create ripple effects in the broader community. When seniors choose to remain engaged and contributing rather than withdrawing from society, everyone benefits. The nomadic communities bring tourism and economic activity to the places they visit. The co-housing communities often become models for sustainable living and intentional community. The intergenerational house sharing creates bridges between age groups that benefit everyone involved. Personal growth. Perhaps most importantly, these alternative living situations honor the truth that growth doesn't stop at any age. The 70-year-old learning to tango on a cruise ship, the 80-year-old discovering a new culture in Portugal, the 75-year-old starting an art commune. These people are living proof that the capacity for growth, learning, and joy doesn't diminish with age unless we allow it to. The traditional model of aging assumes that your personality, interests, and capabilities are fixed by a certain age. These alternative approaches recognize that every stage of life offers opportunities for discovery, growth, and transformation. They honor the wisdom that comes with age while embracing the possibility that your next chapter might be your best chapter. Practical steps. If any of these options resonate with you, the question becomes, what's your next step? Start by honestly assessing what you really want from your living situation. Not what your family wants, not what society expects, but what would actually make you happy and fulfilled. Consider visiting some of these alternative communities, taking a long cruise to see how you feel about that lifestyle, or connecting with other seniors who have made unconventional choices. The internet has made it easier than ever to find communities of like-minded people and to research options that previous generations never knew existed. Overcoming obstacles. Expect resistance, both from others and from your own fears. Change is never easy, especially when it challenges everything you've been taught about how you should live. But remember that the biggest risk isn't making a mistake. It's living a life that doesn't reflect who you truly are and what you truly value. Start small if you need to. Maybe house sit for friends in different locations to test your comfort with change. Maybe spend a month in a co-housing community as a guest. Maybe take an extended cruise to see how you feel about that lifestyle. You don't have to make permanent decisions immediately, but you do have to be willing to explore possibilities. Final revelation. Here's what I want you to understand as we wrap up. You have more power over your aging experience than anyone has ever told you. The narrative that aging means decline, limitation, and eventual institutionalization is just that, a narrative. It's not an inevitable truth. The seniors who are thriving in these alternative living situations haven't discovered some secret to eternal youth. They've discovered something even more powerful, the secret to living authentically at every age. They've refused to accept that their best years are behind them. They've insisted on writing their own story about what their golden years will look like. Life-changing truth. But here's the most important thing I want you to take away from this entire conversation. The decision about how you want to live your later years isn't something you can postpone until you're already old. The attitudes you develop about aging, the relationships you build, the financial planning you do, the courage you cultivate, all of these start now, regardless of your current age. If you're 50, 60, or 70, you're not too old to start planning for a different kind of aging experience. If you're 30 or 40, you're not too young to start thinking about what you want your golden years to look like. The seniors who are living these extraordinary lives didn't stumble into them by accident. They chose them, often years before they needed to make the actual transition. Ultimate insight. The most profound thing I've learned from researching these alternative living options is this. The quality of your later years isn't determined by your health, your wealth, or your circumstances. It's determined by your willingness to keep choosing growth over comfort, connection over safety, and authenticity over conformity. Every senior I've met who is thriving in these unconventional situations has made a fundamental decision. They've decided that their age gives them more freedom, not less. They've decided that having less time left means they should be more intentional about how they spend it, not more cautious. They've decided that the wisdom that comes with age should be used to create a life that truly reflects their values, not to accept a life that doesn't. The 7 options I've shared with you today aren't just living arrangements. They're invitations to reimagine what's possible for your future. They're proof that the story of aging doesn't have to be about decline and limitation. It can be about growth, discovery, and the kind of deep fulfillment that only comes when you have the courage to live according to your own truth. Your golden years are waiting for you to define them. The question isn't whether you'll age, you will. The question is whether you'll age on your own terms or on someone else's. The choice, as it always has been, is entirely yours.